Hi everyone. This video we will talk about selection sort. That will be another sorting algorithm contain big O n square runtime. So the first thing we see, what is selection sort? So the same thing, does have an array, integer array, size is 10. So then we are not in the sorted order. So what is selection sort? The selection sort idea is every iteration I will have one smallest value in the right location. So for example, here we start from 34. But this 34 actually is later after my iteration, I want to have the smallest value located here. So that's why you can compare 34, 56, 4, 10, and everything we find out. 4 is the smallest value. So that's why 4 is actually the target value we want to do. So after we find the smallest value, I will swap the 4 with 34. So the rest of values, since they are not the smallest value and also they are not the target location, they will remain the same location. Okay, so you can see after the first iteration, we have the 4 at the right location. So now, since 4 already in the right location, right? So now we go to the next iteration, we target for 56. So 56, I want the 56 should have the next smallest value. So that's why that's have the 56 compared to everyone. So then we find out actually 5 would be the smallest one. So that's why I swap 5 and the 56. But then the rest of that, I just don't change. So that's the selection sort. So the same thing you can understand after we have 4 and the 5 at the right location. So then you will see 34. So the same thing, you see 34, you will see 10 will be the next smallest one, right? So we'll move the 10. We will move the 10 in 34. So 10, 34, they will swap. So the rest of the value, they will remain the same. Okay. So that's the selection sort. So now you can think about how will you implement this algorithm. So here, when we implement the algorithm to see how we will do the function, right? You need to think about each iteration, what they do. So we can see like earlier, each iteration we will have one element in the right location. So this one actually is we're using the same thing. You have two for loop to work on that. So the first for loop, outer for loop actually start from 0, right? Because you want to start from 34. This one will be the right location. So your I actually you will continue to move the I to next one. So that's I less than the size, I plus plus. Okay, so that's your outer for loop. So after you have your outer for loop, what we'll do is we're using this location is the target location, and we're looking for the smallest value to replace that one. Actually not replace, to swap with that location. So that's why let's see how about our inner for loop will do. Okay, so here actually we need to remember we need to have a small index, smallest index. Okay, the smallest index actually beginning, I think that's a 34, located at I index. Then you have another value, that's the smallest value. Okay, but this smallest value actually up to you want to use that or not. Or we just see here, since we remember smallest index is located at I, right? So of course the smallest value, they are located at A's array. So then smallest index. Okay, so we see here. So that's why inside my inner for loop, right? Okay, so my inner for loop, you see, since I already make this value is the smallest value, so then my I actually start from my J start from I plus 1. Okay, so j the same thing, less than size, j plus plus. So here actually what j will do is j will continue to compare. If my aj smaller than the smallest value, that means actually aj, this location like 4 is smaller than 34. So that's why now 34 is not the smallest one. So that's why here after you have your smallest value, right? So actually my this index changed, they equal to j. On the other hand, since my smallest index changed, so then my smallest value changed. Okay. So this one actually, like we say, you can use it for the smallest value. So here is, and we see that we need both. So later I will make the change. So here I just want to show you more clear. So since j changed, right? So smallest value we assign by the smallest index. So that's the smallest value. Okay, so after we done the iteration, actually what we will do is we can find where is the location for the smallest index. So that's why after my inner for loop, so this one is my inner for loop, right? After my inner for loop, okay, after I finish my inner for loop, okay, so here you can see more clear for the inner for loop. Before I go back to the outer for loop, so at the end here I need to swap the value. Okay, I need to swap the value with the AI. That's our beginning. So then with the A smallest index. Okay, so this one is the selection sort. We review again. Remember, selection sort is every time you have one iteration. So that's why here we start from I equal to 0, I less than the size. So then we make the smallest index start from I. So actually this one, if you want, you don't really need this one, because your smallest value always equal to the smallest index 0.2. So on the other hand, since here you don't have your smallest value, right? So this one actually we're using the each aj compared to the smallest index. Okay, so if this aj is less than the smallest index, that means j is the smallest one now. Okay, so the rest of that here we don't need that. Okay, so since we don't need that, we only have one braces. So then after in the inner for loop, after we find the smallest index, so then we just need to swap I and j. So that's the selection sort. So again, this selection sort, the nested for loop I wrote here is only for the integer data type. Your example I want you to see actually should be the next one, because all the sorting algorithm we want to implement in this class now we want to be the template. So that's why here you can go to the selection sort the template function. You see you can be any data type. You can be the size. So you see here the for loop we have nested for loop. So your nested for loop for the outer for loop I start from 0. So we just need to remember smallest index is I. So then our j inner for loop start from I plus 1. So then less than the size. So as long as your new index value smaller than the smallest index, we just change that. So here actually they just using the same thing like earlier we say the swap. Okay, so make sure you run this program and you understand the selection sort.